Hey, you're listening to the Intentional Mind podcast, where we're all about helping you intentionally design your life using the power of your mind, faith, and energy. And on this episode, we're talking about leaving. Like, how do you know when it's the best time to leave a job, a relationship, whatever it is that you want to leave? Because let's be real, if you're going to intentionally design your life, you're going to have to leave some things so that you can grow and evolve to be the person that you want to be. So how do you know when it's the best time to leave? And how do you leave in a way that really serves you? That's what we're going to dive into on this episode. If you are not familiar with me, I'm Angela Barnard. You can call me Ange. And I'm a straight up nerd when it comes to living intentionally and really harnessing the power of energy and really understanding how our mind works and recognizing that the creation, the things that we create, all has to do with the energy that we generate and what's happening in our own mind. And I 100% believe that this is power that has been given to us by God. I believe that. So that's where all of my info is stemming from those beliefs of the connection between the mind, power, energy, God, faith, all the things. Like, I just think it's all connected. So with that being said, let's talk about leaving some things so that we can be who we want to be. So first, I want to just validate some of the feelings that you might be feeling if you've decided that if you're thinking, you're pondering leaving something. So here's some signs that you might notice when you want to leave something. I'm going to relate more of these to job situations. But the first one is when you're starting to become someone you don't want to be. That's a sign that you're getting close to maybe wanting to leave the thing because you're starting to become someone you don't want to be. Let me explain. So maybe at one point in time, if you give an example of a job, you may have been the person who valued doing quality work. Like, that was so important to you. Now you seem to just not care. You don't care about it. You just want to check the box and move on because you're done, right? Because you're doing stuff that doesn't light you up. You're starting to show up in ways that don't make you proud. Like, maybe you're being more impatient and you're angry. So these are signs that you're out of alignment. You're starting to become someone you don't want to be. You're acting in ways that are not in alignment with who you want to be. That's a big sign that it may be time for you to leave. So the second thing that I've seen a lot of is you feel a lot of resistance when being in the work situation or maybe around the person that you're thinking about leaving or not wanting to be around, right? There's resistance of being there. You feel it. So years ago, I was in a job that I considered to be more of like a soul-sucking job. I'm like, I can feel in my throat right now this jalapeno from the Trader Joe's new snacks that I got. I'm always trying new snacks, and I can just like feel it stuck in my throat. Not the whole Cheeto looking thing. It's like a healthy version of a Cheeto, but like the pepper, you know what I mean? Okay, that was a side note. Moving on. Okay, so I was back in this soul-sucking job. That's what I would call it. And I would do my best to stay positive. Like, on the way to work, I would listen to motivational talks, podcasts, all of music. But as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, I would feel like my soul is leaving my body. Like, I'm just like, so much resistance to being there. And no amount of the pep talks and the motivational wisdom would make me feel better about being there. So that was a big sign, again, that I was living out of alignment. There was so much resistance. It was like my body was telling me, like, okay, this is not for you. But you do want to recognize that the reason that's happening is because of thoughts that you have in your mind that's telling you that. But I think, too, our intuition speaks to us. And a lot of times we don't listen. Like, we keep moving forward on things that we know are not for us. Like, we felt the resistance, but we try to justify it over and over. Like, I even think of relationships I've been in the past where I knew that person wasn't for me. Like, deep down, I knew that, but I would try to justify why. I'd make excuses why maybe it could work out. Kind of like we do that with work stuff too, right? And when it's really like someone wants to shake you and be like, this is not the best fit for you, you know? Like, I picture like an angel just shaking me and being like, wake up. Gosh, do you not see our signs that we keep throwing at you every day? The fact that you're in your office spinning around in a chair all day because you're just don't want to be there. Like, that's not the way to live your life. Okay. That's what I used to do. I remember I would spin in my chair and be like, why am I here? Anyways, everyone can relate to having a soul-sucking job. Maybe not everyone, but if you can't relate to that, then God bless you, because that's amazing. Um, because I feel like those jobs have been such a gift to me, because it's taught me so much about who I am, and it's brought me closer to who I want to be. And I think that's why I have the life that I do now, that is very intentionally designed, is because I knew what I didn't want. So there's so much gifts in learning what you don't want, because it teaches you what you do want. So really seeing that as a blessing. That's another side note. But the third thing is you count down the hours until it's time to go home, or when you can be away from the person, if you're choosing to leave someone or wanting to, right? Counting down the hours until it's time to leave is a sign that, in a sense, it's time to leave. Because you don't want to be the person that counts down the hours of your precious life, do you? No, of course not. This is a big sign that you're living out of alignment with some of your greatest strengths and your values, because you're counting down the hours of your life. That is not a way to live. And if you find yourself in a situation where you continuously do that, then we need to look at what it's going to take for you to be the person that you want to be. What actions need to happen, right? Okay, so you can know it's time to leave. Like, you can be like, check out all the signs I just said. You're starting to become someone you don't want to be. You can be like, check. You feel lots of resistance when being there around the person. Check. And then you count down the hours until it's time to go home or be away from the person. You can be like, check, all the things. You can know it's time to leave and still be intentional about leaving. Okay? And one of the greatest regrets I have is me leaving unintentionally. Me leaving a soul-sucking job just by reacting and being like, okay, I'm done with this. And not leaving from a place of love. Like, that's a big regret that I have. And that's something I'm always coaching my clients around, is like, okay, we're clear that we know that you don't want to stay in this role anymore. We know this. But how can you leave in a way that makes you proud? How can you leave from a place of love? Right? It's possible you can do that. So I want to just give you some notes, some things that I put down. I wrote things to note. The first thing is, don't leave to feel good and make happiness outside of you. Feel good before you leave. This is the number one thing I've seen an issue with, a challenge, I guess, with some of my clients, is that when they want to do work that they love, they're sick of the job that they don't like, they want to do something more meaningful, or they're sick of their relationship. Don't think that if you're leaving from this place of anger, or you're frustrated and you hate this, that you are going to attract something awesome in your life, because you ain't. When you're leaving from that place, like, you will be like, that's the energy you're generating. I hate this is awful. Whatever it is that you're thinking, if you're feeling like off, remember that's what you're generating into the world. So a lot of times I'm working with my clients to help them shift their own energy and feel good where they're at. Be grateful for where they are right now. See the goodness in it and leave from that place. Like, you can still be grateful for where you are and want something more. That's okay. That's a different kind of energy versus hating and resistance. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around that. So I suggest that you feel good before you leave, that you start to notice how this is serving you. How is it serving you? Like, a lot of times with jobs, it's serving you by being a paycheck that provides, food for your family, that allows you other opportunities to work on the things that you really like. Like, write down all the ways in which it's serving you. And it is serving you, or you wouldn't be there. It's serving you in some way. It may not be making you feel good while you're there, but it's still serving you. So how can you take note of that? How can you practice gratitude around that, so you can shift your energy around it? How can you bring the joy to where you are right now? So you complain that you hate your coworkers because they're so negative. Like, that's something I hear a lot from clients. Like, oh my goodness, being around them, they're always complaining. They're always just, whatever. And it's like, how can you help shift that environment? Like, how can you influence that energy? Because you are a powerful influencer. Can you show up with joy no matter what? Can that come from inside of you and not externally? Can it be based on your own thoughts versus what other people do? Because then if it's based on what other people do, then you're giving your power away. And you don't want to be walking around all powerless. You don't want to be generating that lower energetic state. I'm not saying this work is easy, by no means. I am not. But I am saying that it's worth it. That how you feel is so important, the energy that you generate and what you're going to create next. Because wherever you go, wherever you are, there you'll be. Have you heard people say that? That means the energy will follow you. So you see this a lot in relationships where people will leave a really crappy relationship only to find themselves in another crappy relationship. Because there's energy around that it's being brought with them, that's attracting certain things, certain kinds of people. And you can't keep thinking that you're going to change an external circumstance to make you feel better. No, we need to do the work within. That's where our joy should come from. But again, like I said, this is deep stuff. And it takes a dive into what's really going on, what's really creating the results that are happening. Okay, so the next note I have is to be happy before you leave. People say, if you're happy, then why leave? If you're happy, why leave? I want you to know this. You can leave simply because you want to. You don't have to leave just because something's crappy. Like, why do we have to wait for something to be crappy to leave? Should we want to leave from a good place? Leave feeling good? So this is your life. You get to decide. You don't have to be unhappy to change anything. But it's funny because society tends to push that to make us believe, well, why would you leave your job? I thought you were so happy. I thought you loved that job. Why would you leave it? Because I'm evolving and I want to be a different version, of myself. I want to be this kind of person. This is more in alignment with who I want to be. And I loved where I was at while I was there. I loved the people I was around. I'm grateful for that opportunity. But now I want to shift and change, to evolve, because I'm a human and that's what humans like to do. What we're made to do is evolve and change and grow, right? And survive. Most importantly, that's where we run into some issues with the subconscious mind wanting us to repeat patterns that may no longer be serving us because the survival kicks in. But I think there's this higher part of ourselves that always wants to grow and change things up. So you can leave beautifully. Relationships, jobs, all of that stuff can end and still be a tremendous success. Just adopt that thought. Know that doesn't mean it was a failure. It can be a success. It can have served you in that moment. It could have been exactly what you needed to be who you're going to be in the future. The stepping stone that you needed. Can you see it that way? Can you see how it contributed to you being your best version of yourself? So, another note, you don't have to keep going in order for something to be successful, and you're not a failure. That's just another way of saying what I just said. Because a lot of times people think like, I need to keep going. Otherwise that means this is a failed thing. And it doesn't always mean that. You can simply shift and change. I've seen this a lot with people in their business where they're like, well, if I stop doing this or providing the service that I have for so long, then I'm a failure. And it's like, why are we choosing to make it mean that? What if we made it mean that served us while I did it and helped me grow? It helped me in so many ways. And now this next action will serve me in becoming the person I want to be. And it's time to shift because not everything is meant to stay the same. That's why we go through cycles, seasons. Like, it's natural for things to shift and change. So you don't want to be chasing circumstances to change how you feel, because then again, you give your power to external things. What happens is you say, I won't feel good unless I have this. Unless he or she behaves this way, then I'll feel good. And why do you want to do that? Because we're giving our power to something outside of us. You see this a lot where someone doesn't like the behavior of someone and they're like, well, I'm not going to be nice around them, or I'm not going to be happy around them because they always act this way. Like, why are you giving them the power to make you feel any certain way? Like, you're not going to change how you feel unless they change. You don't want to have your feelings be dependent upon them, person you probably don't even want to be around. But we do that all the time. I mean, I've definitely been guilty of that. That's a challenge for me that I often still struggle with, is giving my power away to how other people are showing up. Okay, so another note, if you are unhappy in a job or relationship, you'll feel a sense of urgency. You'll be in a hurry to leave. If that's the case, this means you haven't done the work yet. If you are in a hurry to leave, you feel this sense of urgency. I want you to think about this energetically, what's happening, the kind of energy that you're generating. And let's see, is that kind of energy going to create the results you want? It's not going to. So that means there's work to be done in the mind about where you're at right now. I heard Brook Castillo asked this question before, and I thought it was relevant in this episode to share. She said something about how a friend had asked her, how do you know if you should work on it or leave? And she said the real question is, how do you know if you should work on your mind around it or if you're ready to leave? If you're ready to leave. And she posed back the question, can you do it with love? Right? Slow down and find your way to love. That's how you know when you're ready to leave, is if you made the decision that you want to. You don't have to justify yourself, and that you can do it from a place of love. Right? Most of the time in these situations, there's no rush, but we act like that we have to operate from this sense of urgency. So slow down, find your way back to love. So if you're going to leave or you're going to stay, just make sure that you like your reason. And it's not so you can manipulate the outside world so that you can feel better. Right? Make sure it's you like your reason. So you can decide to change something when it's good. We said that a lot already. You don't have to wait until it gets bad, so you can just want something different. You can say, I'm willing to let this go for my growth and to take steps towards who I want to be. Goodbye. This is something else I heard from Brook Castillo. You can have a goodbye. Make it a goal that all your goodbyes are good. I feel like most of these notes I've taken, I have them all blended together, but I'm pretty sure this was from an episode, from Brook's episode. And I just like take notes from other episodes, and I like a lot of times will take my own, throw in my own stories and my 2 cents into everything I'm learning, because I'm constantly learning from so many different people that I forget where all of this stuff comes from. And I think about it as, it's just so fun to learn from so many different people around all their different views and perspectives, and then blend it together in what feels good and makes sense for you and how it relates to your own stories. So I remember she said something about how a lot of times the clients that she's worked with, that with this work where they're looking at how they're leaving and from what place they're leaving, like when they go back to love, that a lot of them will find that they don't even want to leave because they were leaving from a place of anger. So sometimes that happens too. Because it clouds the way that you're seeing things, the anger and all of that. So another thing I wrote down is people often say it's not the right decision because others will be hurt by it. So go back to the concept of, do you like your reason for leaving? Do you like your reason? So an example is, I remember a while back, I left a job that I left because I wanted to work on my dreams of like my coaching stuff, my business and all of that. And it was really hard for me to leave because I loved my boss. And I even debated staying, even though it wasn't really in alignment with me being who I wanted to be, creating, like making my dreams a reality. I almost was going to stay because I loved my boss so much. And I was so worried about what she was going to think. But would I have liked my reason for staying? I'm staying because of pleasing my boss, right? Because in a sense, what I'm doing is I'm saying no to myself and my own heart. And then that goes back to the regret. The top regret of the dying is living a life not true to you. And I don't want to live a life not true to me. So the thing is, when you intentionally design your life, you're going to disappoint people along the way. Like that's a part of the deal. It just happens. And it takes a lot of courage to intentionally design your life. But can you show up from a place of love? Like, and even if someone is disappointed, can you still show up from a place of love always? Like, I think that should be our goal, is the whole showing up from a place of love. Okay, don't let the feeling of urgency make you rush into making decisions from the place of anger or fear. Don't feel like it needs to happen right now. Commit to love and focusing on this kind of work, like shifting yourself to the energetic state you want to be at, that you want to leave with. All right. And then the last thing is, again, know that growth is uncomfortable. And when you're committed to the truth, you'll be growing and leaving over and over. When people tell you what you should or shouldn't do, pay attention to your heart. It's yours for the making. You are allowed to change your mind anytime. Just don't be in a hurry to do it, and do it in a way that makes you proud. Your life is your own. If you go around trying to change everything to make yourself feel better, you're going to be exhausted. Find the decision that will grow and evolve you to be the best version of you. Make decisions that honor who you want to be, not who you are right now. Ask yourself, is this bringing me closer to where I want to be? That's one of my favorite questions to ask. All right. That's it. That's all my notes for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and give you some insight into leaving, the process, when it's the best time, how to leave in a way that serves you, all that good stuff. If you haven't left us a review, you know what to do. I hope that you have an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.